All right. Let's shift gears since you mentioned the oil price caps, because we do have some more breaking news, and that is that from Sky News, finance ministers of the G7 countries have agreed to impose a ceiling on the price of Russian oil. Finance ministers of the group of seven nations have announced their intention to ban maritime services transporting Russian oil if its price is not approved by international partners. This is a bad move, but
Yeah.
it also. Well, what do you think of this move? Because I think this is also an admission of defeat. But
Yeah.
anyway, what do you think of this
Oh, it is.
decision?
I mean, at the end of the day, again, they're having to double down. What they're trying to do is they're trying to keep Russia exporting oil, but at a lower price, which they dictate. They're trying to impose a price cap. But it's not going to succeed. I mean, it's all based on the assumption that China and India, which are the two big oil importers now of Russian oil, are going to play along with this in some way, and that they're not going to be able to substitute with insurance services and all that sort of thing, which of course is nonsense. I mean, the time, the world when London provided all the insurance services is gone.
This is going to lead to major instability, and I
Yeah,
imagine the secondary markets are going to be loving this, aren't they?
of course they are. I mean, I'm already getting reports, by the way, that, there was a big article about this in Zero Hedge, that in spite of pretending that it's, trying to reduce imports of Russian gas, Europe is buying LNG gas from China, which originates in Russia. They're all doing this. I mean, this is an oil smugglers charter. I mean, I'm not even going to call them smugglers. I mean, the world of
Resellers.
middlemen and resellers, all of this, they're going to love this.
Yeah. How is this going to boomerang back at the collective West? Because you know
It's
it
going to
is.
create even more. Well, the most likely outcome of this is it's going to create oil shortages in an already tight market. So oil prices are going to rise; they're not going to fall.
Why did they do this then?
Well, because that's what we said. They're constantly looking for some way out. Now, by the way, what you're absolutely right is, in a sense, what it also does is it rows back that ban on oil imports from Russia that were to Europe that was supplied by ship. The US Treasury said this is an incredibly bad idea, don't do it. The Europeans went ahead and did it. Now they're trying and rebalance the oil market in some way by imposing this oil price cap and using the insurance market to enforce it. It's going to blow up in their faces, but that's what they're going to try and do. So they're going from one expedient to another. The one thing they're not prepared to do is give up on the attrition war, because all their credibility is now invested in it. This
Right.
is This is the Kherson offensive of the economic attrition war.
Right. Just to finish the video out, expand on that a bit, because we've talked about this in other videos as well, actually, that Yellen was very much opposed to what the EU did with regards of trying to trying to stop Russian oil from entering the EU market. And they knew that they couldn't pull back from that. And so she concocted this price cap. She couldn't get India and China on board. But it looks like she still went through with it, knowing that this is going to backfire in a big way, because Yellen seems desperate. The Biden White House seems desperate to try and figure out a way to rebalance everything because of the hysteria of the EU by taking this action in the first place, which was probably they were probably pushed by the Biden White House as well. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
everything is so dysfunctional. I can just see the Biden White House telling the EU, yeah, go for it. Cut them off on oil and gas and everything. And then I can see them, I don't know, like hanging up the phone and then looking at each other in the White House and saying, are you sure we gave them the right advice? And now they're trying to figure out ways to walk that back without losing face. And so this is what they've come up with. But this is going to be, it's like throwing bad money after good, not even good, bad money after bad. That's what it's like.
No, you've described it exactly. I mean, I can remember, way back, a couple of months ago, when the EU first started to float the idea of imposing an import ban on Russian oil. Yellen was going out and saying this is a bad idea. It's going to mean that there's going to be less oil around. That's going to push up the oil price. Of course, that's also going to affect the price of oil in the United States. Now, in spite of her saying that, the hardliners won, as they always do. Whenever a sanctions are suggested, however counterproductive, however idiotic they are, those who demand the most extreme sanctions always in the end get their way. So in spite of doubts, in spite of people like Viktor Orban coming along saying this is an extremely bad idea, we shouldn't even be talking about it, the EU imposes a ban on imports of oil from Russia imported by ship, which is 90% of the oil from Russia which is imported into the EU. And then, of course, they suddenly realise, what is that doing? That's going to create a crisis come winter, because by that point, there's going to be accumulating oil shortages, massive imbalances in the oil market, because if that happens, then we're going to find ourselves in a position where there's no oil from Russia coming to Europe, there's not enough oil coming from the Gulf to make that up. We're going to have a cascade effect on oil prices in the United States, which is a very sensitive issue, as we know, are going to start rising as well. So Yellen then comes back and says, well, let's do this instead. Instead of having this oil ban, let's try and move towards this attempt to try to bring down the price by imposing this price cap on Russian oil. Except, of course, that it doesn't solve the problem, because, by the way, the previous import ban is not being lifted. They're doing now what is supposed to be the alternative, but it's now being added on to the other thing. And of course, it's just creating more complexities. It is disrupting the efficient working of the oil market, because oil is not going to be able to move smoothly around the world economy in response to price instructions. I mean, so the result is, whenever you try and do a thing like this, it always and invariably results in oil shortages. The Saudis have told the US not to do this thing. They said to them that the market is tight. They said that Saudi Arabia is at the limits of what it can produce. All the big oil producers have said the same, but they're going to do it anyway, because, as I said, whatever sanctions are proposed, the hardliners always insist that they be imposed, and the hardliners always win. And that's been the pattern right the way through. And just as we've had this offensive in Kherson, which the military, the experts said was a bad idea, but it's happened anyway, we now see the oil price cap. The experts, all the experts, every single economist, oil industry specialist that I've seen has said this is a bad idea, but it's going to be done anyway.
Yeah, I was just going to say that Saudi Arabia is probably looking at this and they're saying, let's get into BRICS really, really fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's going to be a knock-on effect to all of this. They're looking at the leadership in the West and they're saying these guys are a bunch of bozos.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's BRICS time. It is time for BRICS because these guys aren't capable.
Yes, but the other thing is that the more this fails, and the more they, at the same time, they press on with this. I mean, just consider Annalena Baerbock's comments. I don't care what happens in Germany. I'm going to just carry on with this thing until eventually we win. Now, And, you know, if there's protests in Germany, you know, I will face them down. Now, this is a deeply authoritarian response. We have the President of the United States now talking increasingly about the dangers to democracy from, you know, the Republicans, you know, from Republicans. We're going to, the worse things get, the more these people are going to try to clamp down. Because that is now the dynamic that we are seeing. They're going to double down on their anti-Russian policy, and they're going to double down against anybody within their own societies who says this is wrong.
Yeah, that's the knee-jerk reaction. All right, we'll leave it there, the Duran.locals.com, and go to the Duran shop. 10% off. Use the code GOODDAY. Take care.